Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Nick.
Great. Would you give our listeners the 411 on who you are and what you're going to bring to this episode today?
Sure. So I own a digital marketing agency called This Is My South Bay. I've named it after the South Bay part of Los Angeles, which I've grown up in, I live in. I'm in love with it. It's a beach community. And we kind of use that as almost like a case study for local search engine optimization, local social media campaigns.
Great. So you're going to fill us in today on everything that has to do with digital marketing and how to really kind of get into the thick of things and separate your business from other businesses.
Sure. We are an agency that is very SEO centric, search engine optimization, and we can get into it as much as possible in the 30-40 minutes that we have together. There's a lot to cover.
We do. So tell me a little bit about yourself first. Like, where did you start? How did you get into this? Have you always been an entrepreneur? This is your own agency. So talk about that part of it. I would love to know the backstory always.
Sure. So back in the day, I used to be a jewelry designer. I owned a business in downtown LA in the jewelry district with my brother. And we would manufacture and sell to jewelry stores. And when the Great Recession hit, we couldn't give away a diamond. People were not looking to purchase when they thought they might be losing their job, their home. Stock market was crashing and everything. And so while that was happening, our target market, which was jewelry stores across the United States and in Canada, I believe about a third of them closed up within about 36 months or so. And so we had to reevaluate the business and figure out new sales funnels and what we can do. And while working full time, I went back to school and educated myself on marketing. And I really took to this thing called search engine optimization and online marketing. And so we got through that Great Recession. Our business started to pick up. I really enjoyed doing SEO. So my mom was a real estate agent at the time. So I started to optimize her site, some friends and family. At some point, I started to charge people for doing consulting fees, and that kind of took off. At some point, I told my brother, you know what, I think I'm going to leave and I'm going to, open my own agency and start to do this as a business. And that's how I ended up in digital marketing. It's an interesting transition from jewelry to digital marketing, but that's kind of how it happened.
It is. And how did you get into the jewelry? Was that a family business or something you worked your way?
It was, my dad used to be a jeweler back in the day. So yes.
Okay. So you got a family full of entrepreneurs then?
Yes.
Great. And then the transition, can you talk about before the transition when the recession hit, kind of how the thoughts and emotions you went through watching, family business for generations, something that you and your brother took over, you're invested in it, and then all of a sudden the bottom drops out like that. Like, what was the feelings you were going through and the kind of the mindset of how you were able to overcome that and really to stay open to finding a different path as well, which ultimately happened?
That's a good question. It's frustrating because you feel like you've built something and suddenly, people are holding off on purchasing for good reason. And it's not like, at the time I was selling bread and water that they needed to have it. It's something that you can really hold off on purchasing. Like our gift line just tanked like 90 something percent. So, we held on to the bridal because if you're getting married, you still need a wedding band, engagement ring, things like that. But it's confusing. It's frustrating. Like anything in life with change, it has its obstacles. And so, in hindsight, it's something that I'm thankful that, you know, we got through it. I'm happy to have gone through it, and I ended up in, you know, finding my passion in digital marketing. But you have to kind of keep moving. You can't just wait things out, you know, because sometimes I feel like I run into entrepreneurs that something has happened and they just stick their head in the sand, just waiting it out. Like, this is not happening. But, you know, the expenses don't stop, you know, the life doesn't stop, and, you know, you need to keep moving.
And I think that's a message that now, in this moment of where we're at, you know, people say we're at the end of the pandemic. I mean, we very well may be in the middle of it. I don't think anybody really knows. So I think that's a message that has to be out there, that you can't have your head in the sand right now. You know, same as you couldn't have your head in the sand in the middle of a recession. And it hit me when you said that the recession was, you know, in your eyes, 36 months. You saw a lot of these jewelers cycle through and go out of business. So when you think about it, 36 months may very well be the cycle to see a lot of small businesses go out now. And we're, you know, not even really halfway to that 36-month cycle. So I think you're dead on what you're saying of you have to keep moving forward. You have to find other avenues and other paths, and you found the digital marketing. So take us through the early days of starting your agency. Once you collected some fees and you're doing some consulting, and you realize, and you go to your brother and you say, hey, I'm going to move on and start my own agency. Like, take me through the very beginning of that part. Once you knew this is what you were going to do, what was the buy-in from you? How much time, how much effort did you have to put in to get this thing off the ground?
Well, I did some of the infrastructure while I was still, you know, working in jewelry. So when I had some paying customers and I had something where it wasn't as much of a risk, because sometimes, you know, if you don't have any income, no matter how much savings you have, it's not going to be enough sometimes, and you're adding stress to the situation. So it's good to have, you know, a list of clients that you're servicing, and they're happy, and you're getting paid every month, and they're happy, you're happy. You know, you don't have to do it where it wasn't like I had my entire monthly expenses covered, but, you know, I felt like, okay, I have this money coming in, I have money saved up, and I can, you know, I can do this. And with business, sometimes it's a leap of faith. You find that sometimes there are, you know, as I talk to so many people, and I've spoken at startup situations and conferences and things like that, and sometimes people are the people that are talented, sometimes they assess it too much and they don't take that jump. And sometimes other people that are not as talented, they go for it. So, you know, it just depends who's going to take the risk and who has that appetite and that stomach where they take that leap, and then it doesn't work out right away. And then they start putting, you know, things on credit card and borrowing money and things like that. So really, it's a personality trait sometimes. I'm a little bit more cautious. You know, I don't take risks like some other people that I've met, but I believe in sustained growth and taking, you know, making a business plan and sticking to it. And things change, and making changes as I go. But there needs to always, within my business and when we sit down with clients, there's a business plan that we want to target, you know, and we want to find out what the expectations are. I've met with clients where, you know, we double their web traffic and they're still not happy. So we have to talk beforehand. What would make you happy? What are we looking to accomplish in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? And I think that's good to do for yourself also.
I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that you are more conservative in your thoughts in the way that you take the risk, that you're not look at yourself as a risk taker. So let me break this down a little bit. Do you like to do the due diligence on the back end to lessen the risk? So you're putting in the time to, like you said, a business plan, or time to say, okay, this is where I'll break even at. So you kind of know more of the risk before you get in there. You know, because I think that is part of the entrepreneurship. I like what you're saying about the leap of faith, because there is a leap of faith. You don't know if it's going to work, even no matter how good your business plan is. And at some point, there's the risk out there. I mean, I think that's some of what entrepreneurship is about, is the risk. So how do you minimize that risk is my question in your head. Like, how do you come to the point where you're like, all right, it's really not that big of a risk. But if you look at it, in the middle of a recession, to start a brand new business that you really are just learning, that's a pretty big risk.
Yeah, that is a pretty big risk. I guess the thing is, in life, we're always comparing ourselves to people that are in our circle sometimes, or people that we come across. I had this funny statistic where there's a short men's club, men that are uncomfortable that they're short. And the average person in that club is 5'10.5" which is above the average men's height. But usually those people are, their dad is 6'5", or their younger brother is taller than them, and things like that. So we kind of compare ourselves to people that are, in our lives, or that we come across. So I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs that are really aggressive, and they understand the risk. We talk about if we have a bad quarter or a bad year, that's what's the backup plan and things like that. For me, to minimize the risk is I've gotten to a point where I don't see marketing budget as an expense, because I feel like we can make we'll have a return on investment if we apply the marketing budget correctly. That's I think I've gotten away from that. In the beginning, that was a concern for me, that if I spend $10,000 or $20,000 on Google Ads, will I get an ROI? And now we're at a point where, when we deal with our clients or for ourselves, it's not as much of a concern, because we've done so many campaigns. We know there's a track record, what wording we need to use on the ads and things like that. It's in the beginning, it's more of a concern when you first launch. Then hopefully as you get more experience, it becomes less.
And that's what you're saying. You've got it dialed in now with that part of it, with when you spend the money on the SEO, and that you're going to get a result, because you've got proven tactics that you know exactly how to do it. You know what words work, what times of days and what days of the week work better than most. I would assume you've got it all dialed in. And is that something that, when you're talking to your clients, that you can kind of let them know to minimize their risk as well? Because you're telling them, like, here's what your return's going to be. But I do like what you're saying is to also minimize your risk. You're asking them what their expectations are already, because you're right. Everybody has different expectations. I know myself, sometimes when I enter into a deal or a marketing deal, I have an expectation of what we're going to see back. And sometimes the reality is it just, that's not what's going to happen. So it is better when you understand that and somebody spells it out and says, hey, this is exactly what you're going to get for your money, or close to it. And I think that's important. So I guess when you look at everything, is that how you feel so confident and you've got it so dialed in that you can really define it when you talk to your clients?
Well, the thing is, a couple of things when it comes to digital marketing. It changes by territory, expectations and cost per click, and just everything. It changes by industry.
That was my next question. I was just writing it down. I was going to ask you, like, does it change by industry?
It changes. A chiropractor in Los Angeles is different than a lawyer in Minneapolis. Like, it's just, everything is different. So, but what we do is, and the second thing, which makes it even more difficult to make guarantees or promise things, is that digital marketing, especially search engine optimization, is a moving target. So what worked 36 months ago may not necessarily, I would say probably about 60% of it wouldn't work now. And so it's always changing, it's always evolving, it's always getting better, in my opinion, because we're getting really good search results from the search engines. Like literally, recently, it's come down to not just what you're searching for, but it's the user intent. If I put in, I don't know, a Honda Accord, when I'm on Google, if I type in Honda Accord, Google has a file on me. So Google pretty much knows where I live, what my income level is, my gender, my age. If I lease, if I buy, if I bought a Honda Accord, the search results, the autofill is going to say repair or insurance, things to do with if I bought a car, as opposed to my next door neighbor. If they type it in, maybe it's going to come up with things to do with lease. So it's literally, it's the search. Google's trying to help us search better and give us the best possible search results. And so it's always moving in a direction where things are changing and things are getting tighter. So what I can tell the client is that we run campaigns, and then we look at the reports and we're able to figure out the data. And that's, I think, the secret sauce to an agency that's able to deliver, is that it's changing. Each territory is different, each industry is different. But once you start running the campaigns, you have to figure out what's turning Google on about what you're doing and what's upsetting Google, and then cut out the things that are upsetting Google and feed it more things that is turning on Google.
And I guess, if anybody wants to see what their Google profile is, they can actually do that, right?
Well, they don't necessarily make that public. You don't really go in and see what Google thinks of you. They just have a profile on what you're searching for.
Yeah.
And when you're logged in to your Gmail or your Facebook and your IP address, it kind of knows where you are most of the time. And if you're always logging in from your home or whatever, your work, it kind of knows, geo-targeting wise and so on. So it sounds a little bit creepy sometimes when I explain to people that Google knows so much about us, or Facebook knows so much about us. But as it stands right now, it's giving us really good search results for what we're looking for. Because I remember back in the day, in the beginning, you would search for a mechanic in your town and then you'd get a mechanic coming up 500 miles away. That hardly happens anymore. It's very clean search results that are coming in.
Yeah, I know that it seems like, I thought there was a website out there where you could actually see that, what they think of you. I know somewhere I saw some kind of sample, and it's kind of scary when they've got you pretty dialed in. Does it matter how much money a client spends each month on SEO?
Of course. The more you have, the more of a budget you have. One of the things that is important for SEO is content creation. And so the better content you can create, the more they're going to stay on your site. And the longer they stay on your site, the better it's going to be for your SEO metrics. And the more content you create, the better content you create, everything is gonna dictate that.
And do you have a favorite story of maybe somebody that came to you and they were maybe skeptical of trying it? They bought in, they spent good money with you, and now the results were just outstanding. Like, do you have a story like that you could share with us?
Lots. But I'll one that happened that was interesting was I actually before COVID and hopefully after COVID, there's a academy here that I teach part-time, search engine optimization classes. And so one of the students that came in, they were kind of just flying blind, and they were going through marketer after marketer, and they figured, enough of this, I'm going to learn this, and then that way I can hire and manage the marketer better. And so at some point I helped them out a little bit to get started. And one of the things that we did was we did a call tracking metrics, so we could see the phone calls coming in from the campaigns that they're doing for SEO and from their Google ads. And so they had somebody that I think it was a family member or something, that on weekends, that person was in charge of answering the phone calls and taking messages. Now, as it turned out, that person was not answering the phone calls. So about half the phone calls that were coming in were on the weekends. And so just by doing that, just by that simple exercise, their business went up 100%. And so with a couple of other tweaks like that, we were able to get them within about 60 days, we tripled their online business, and they became believers right away, because, you know, they had gone through the journey of using different marketers and different everything, and no real fake marketer, I'll call them, or charlatan, a pretender is gonna want to stick their neck out and say, I'm gonna run these campaigns and you can see if the phone calls come in. You know, like they're not gonna do that usually. And so when we did that, they could see what phone calls were coming in and what was happening, and you know, everything kind of came into focus, because they were looking to just dump their website and dump their digital marketing altogether and go in a different direction.
And have you noticed when you work with small businesses versus major corporations, is there a big difference there?
Well, the major corporations kind of have their own team in-house. And so usually this kind of, you know, our agency caters to small to mid-sized businesses. That's kind of our sweet spot. The bigger corporations have their team, they have their, you know, everything's in-house. And then the startups, they can't really afford, you know, a marketing budget, and they kind of need to do things on a very small budget to begin with until they get things rolling.
And what's the difference between somebody saying my website is optimized for SEO versus having a SEO expert working with them?
Well, when you say the website is optimized, that's basically saying the website is mobile friendly, that it adds, you know, it loads quickly. The desktop, the tablet, everything loads quickly. You know, if you have a page that loads in 10, 12 seconds, that's not a good user experience. So Google is not going to rank you. If you have broken links on your page, if the pages on your website are not tagged, or they're tagged incorrectly, like if it's just a generic number for a picture, Google can't read what that picture is. So you literally have to tell it what the alt tag, you have to tag the images and things like that to make sure that the website is properly quote unquote optimizable.
And what do you tell somebody, or how do you handle a client that would come to you and say that if somebody searches for X, I want to be ranked #1? Like, I would assume you get that, where people come and say, look, this is my product, this is my company, and when you search for these words, I want to be ranked #1 on Google.
What do I say?
Yeah, can you do that?
Well, no, I can't guarantee that. It's anyone that can, you know, because I get emails still to this day, #1 position guaranteed. I actually, with my jewelry site way back in the day, I fell for one of those, where they literally said, we'll put the money into a fund, and then when we'll rank you #1, give us 20 keywords you would love to rank for. We'll rank at least 3 of them #1 at the same time, and then you can pay us. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so we signed up to their deal, we did it, and sure enough, I was ranked #1 for those 3 keywords within about, I think, 60 days or so. And so what they did was, there's a way to instantly get Google's attention. You know, they bought all kinds of reviews, they bought all kinds of links, they did all kinds of content that was plagiarized, and they put it all on my website, and they boosted my traffic, went like skyrocketing up, and then it crashed back down within 75 days. But at one point I had 3 keywords at #1. They took a snapshot of that report, sent it to me. I said, okay, you're right. I can see it also from my end. Here's your money, off you go. And then like 10 days later, everything came tumbling down. And it took me, I don't know, years in some cases to get Google to understand that I'm not looking to spam. I had to disavow the links. I had to delete the Yelp reviews and the online reviews on forums, and all like a nightmare of things to do. And so it's impossible to guarantee anything like this with Google. You can do a top bid on Google Ads and still not be number one, let alone on organic. Google owes us nothing. We can do the work, and Google still might not rank us in the top 10 or the top 50 of a particular keyword. They don't owe us an explanation. They don't owe us the ranking. They're doing it not for the advertiser. They're doing it to give the best possible user experience. So if Google feels like your website is what this user would want, then it'll rank you for that keyword. But you cannot guarantee that. And anyone that guarantees top rated, top ranking, run.
I think that's great advice, because you're right. People do say that for sure. We can rank you number one. And I like your advice, run. So how do you handle that though, when somebody comes to you and because the public thinks that, right? The small business owner thinks I'm sure you get that question when you're talking to someone, like, okay, what's your expectations? I want to be ranked number one. What do you tell somebody who says that?
Well, what I come back with is why. What's the ranking got to do with the bottom line of your business? So what we're trying to do is, we're trying to figure out for that business, what would be a good metric for a conversion? Do they want form fills, phone calls, people to ask questions on chat, downloads? What is it that you want to accomplish? And so then we can work it backwards, because there are companies that they don't really want phone calls. They want you to fill out a form, schedule an appointment, and then have that appointment with the client. Others want downloads, etc. So we want to figure out what it is what's a good conversion, and then we can kind of work it backwards, because we can have all the traffic in the world, we can have all the ranking in the world. If it's not converting, what's the point? These vanity metrics, especially on social media, where people have 10,000 followers, 1 million followers, 1,000 likes a post, and what do you get out of that? What is the point? And if it's an image thing, great. But if it's not, if you're not monetizing it, especially for a small to mid-sized business, I don't understand the point of that. So we want to be able to lock in on, what are we doing here? What would make you happy to come back next month and the month after, as we share reports? If I doubled your traffic, but you're not converting, are you still okay with that? And we want to figure out what we need to do to keep the customer, relationship going indefinitely. We don't want to have something where we sign a client and then 30 days later, 60 days later, they're like, okay, we're happy with you, but we're not making money. We need to jump ship.
Yeah, I think some of it might be vanity. They want to see their company ranked number one on Google. Might just be more vanity. But I like what you're saying. There's better ways to do it. It doesn't matter if you're number one, as long as you're getting the results. And if you're doubling the leads or more than that, then really, what would you rather have? The leads doubled, or to be ranked number one on Google, I guess, right? So I guess that's kind of what it comes down to. And I'm sure you do get that question, right? That's not a rare question.
Sure.
Yeah,
It's not, people have different ideas of what SEO is and digital marketing and things like that. But, and it's an extension of a business's marketing campaign. And so if it's a small to mid-sized business, usually they don't have deep pockets where they could just spend and lose $10, $20, $50,000 a month indefinitely and not worry about it. Whereas a much bigger company can chalk it up as PR or advertising or whatever. And so at the end of the day, we have to show some kind of return on investment.
Is it your belief that every small business should be doing some sort of digital SEO?
It depends on the business. The thing to keep in mind is it takes a while for your SEO campaign to stick. And so, as you build up reviews and links and content and everything, it takes time to get in the good graces of Google. Again, Google is kind of vouching for you when it gives you that listing organically. So I would say it would be a good practice. Sometimes companies, they don't really need, they have their lead funnels and they're getting leads from different places. And then something happens and that relationship ends and suddenly they need to find a new place. And then starting with SEO, it takes time, like I said. And every day, paid advertising is getting more expensive. Google ads prices are going up, Facebook ads prices, YouTube, et cetera. It's all going up. So it's good to, kind of diversify. And a lot of times, if you're doing social media marketing, you could take the content that you've created for social media and recycle it and use it for your SEO campaign also.
Yeah, I think that's all good advice, because I think those are the common questions. People just wonder if they should be doing it. There's so much stuff out there. There's so many shiny globes or shiny balls out there for somebody looking to market to run towards. I do believe in digital marketing. I think there's definitely a use for it. Sure, there's a use for direct mail and some of the more traditional old school things, but I think at the end of the day, everybody's got a computer in their pocket. That's basically what it comes down to. I mean, if you think of it that way, and then start to think about where you want to spend your marketing dollars, I don't know. When you start thinking about everybody has a computer in their pocket, you start thinking, yeah, you probably should be spending some money on digital marketing somewhere. Eric, I wanted to ask you, where can people get more of you? Where can they find you at? You mentioned that you also do some teaching to teach people how to do the SEO. So please let our listeners know how they can get more of you.
Sure. So they could go to my website. It's called thisismysouthbay.com. And if they have a website, they can put their email address and the website that they want to report on, and we give them a free search engine optimization report and ranking report on their website.
Great. And now it's time to solve the equation to Eric's success. Eric, are you ready for 7 rapid fire questions?
Sure.
Great. Best seminar or teaching you've ever been to?
Best seminar that I've been to. I had gone to a Neil Patel seminar on link building.
Favorite item you've bought recently under $100?
Air purifier.
Name an idol or hero of yours that you've met in person.
Troy Aikman.
Favorite book to give as a gift?
I'm gonna say Art of War.
Something you do every morning?
Brush my teeth.
Your personal mantra or favorite quote?
Getting shit done.
And place you go to decompress and reset?
The beach.
Eric, thank you so much for being a guest today on The Business Equation. It was a pleasure to have you, and we'll hope to hear more of you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.